What up, what up, what up? Hey, everybody, hope you're doing well. Hey, I just want to let you know, I know everybody can't always support and donate to the podcast, but hey, if you can do a one-time donation, I put up a Buy Me a Coffee link in this description of the podcast. So if you go to the description of the podcast, it'll be at the bottom, and you can just go to that link, and you can buy me a cup of coffee, or two if you want. And that would just help support the show, and I can wake up a little bit more and bring you more info. So thanks for listening to the podcast. If you can donate, that would be much appreciated. And let's get on to the show. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing excellent and taking care of yourselves. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about one of my all-time favorite and probably most desired superpowers, which is teleportation. Now, I do have others that I would love to have. Telekinesis, telepathy, maybe alchemy to change like unprecious metals into precious metals to become rich. I'm sure everybody would like to do that. But teleportation has always been at the top. So individuals in movies that have had this power are those of Hayden Christensen in The Jumper, which is a cool idea, concept movie in my mind. I know it got a lot of mixed reviews, but I liked it. And then you have the Nightcrawler in the X-Men. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of those guys and how their powers relate to what we know the government has already done with certain experiments and what Popular Mechanics magazine and some of these other current reliable publications have told us about quantum mechanics and what we're able to currently teleport, which we are able to teleport some things. So let's talk about teleportation, and then we'll get into the science aspect of it. So teleportation, in most people's mind is just the ability to transport yourself from one area to another with all your limbs intact and with maybe anything you might be holding on to. In the movie Jumper, Hayden Christensen was able to jump with things if he was holding on to them. For example, he got a girlfriend and he was able to jump with her to places he had been to previously. He was able to jump even other items in the movie. I don't want to ruin it, but then you have guys like the Nightcrawler in X-Men, and he was also able to jump things. He was able to teleport with the clothes on his back, with a knife that he was going to take the president out with in the movie, and he was able to maneuver anywhere he wanted to go. Typically, it was like areas he could see. He was like bouncing around, so like nobody in the White House could take him out. But it was really fascinating to watch because just the way that they filmed it, I thought was like really, really interesting and fascinating. And I think Nightcrawler's character also is pretty cool. So hang on one second, I'm gonna pull him up and them up. But while I do that, I am gonna talk about some of the government projects that we also know about, like the Philadelphia experiment, as well as some other secret experiments. So let me pull up the Nightcrawler. So Nightcrawler in X-Men, what we believe is they also utilized in the comic quantum teleportation. Professor Xavier, the first step to do it was to create an entangled pair of qubits. Professor Xavier gives the first entangled qubits to Magneto and the second to Wolverine. So, they were able to create it, quantum teleportation, instead of using the innate given, born with special characteristics that I'm sorry, my brain is not working. That Nightcrawler was able to use and have. So it's interesting that they use quantum physics and qubits in the comic itself. I think that's really fascinating because they're actually legitimate. They're spot on with their science, and that's exactly what we're using. And I'll get to that in a moment. But there's like some really in-depth articles written about teleportation. Now, if you Google, "Can we teleport anything?" right now, you're going to get a mixed bag. You're going to get some information that tells you that we are able to teleport only information, kind of like how we do with fiber optics, okay? But it's more advanced than that. What NASA and what a lot of these space agencies did was they were able to transmit one photon from their location in Tibet up to a orbiting space probe. So it's 300 miles. They were able to teleport it up, which is interesting, right? Because why are they teleporting it into space? Why can't they teleport it on the planet? Why wouldn't their first experiment be on the planet, not into space? Which, leads to a whole bunch of, queries about why would they do it in space, conspiracy theories, so on and so forth. But, so you get a little bit of a mixed bag. Time magazine talks about how we were able to transmit matter. Matter being the photon. Photon is a piece of matter. It is light. Okay? It is matter. Now, the photon can and light can also carry information, which is what optical fiber is. Okay? My cousin works on this stuff. Yeah, she sent me a picture of the optical fiber network cable and boxes that he's working on, that he has to go out into the field every time somebody's internet goes down. He fixes these optic fiber boxes. They're really interesting how they work, but it's all optic cable, so it's all light information being spread in packets. Okay, it's kind of the same thing with quantum mechanics. It's spread in qubits, little pieces of information shot up, except much faster because it's not using a physical network. It's using an ethereal network. So, going back to teleportation, we have Nightcrawler. There's an article written by Zilbest.com, and it asks, what if Nightcrawler's teleportation superpower is real? It's written back in 2020. And, growing up, most children love superheroes, and they would love to have their capabilities, whether it's super strength, super speed, like the Flash, super thought, or teleportation like Nightcrawler. Well, Nightcrawler's ability to teleport from one place to another is due to his human mutant characteristics. He has like a genetic change, which is interesting because we have CRISPR now, which can manipulate our genes and our genetic code. So wouldn't it be interesting if we could figure out how this system works and then incorporate it into our genetic code? We would have people with capability to do teleportation, capability to have super strength, capability to maybe be invincible, to make their skin super strong and not be penetrable, right? Or be impenetrable. That would be interesting. But going back to Nightcrawler, with his ability, Nightcrawler puts so many people to shame, including his enemies that try to put him down, even with the most sophisticated weapons in the world we live in. So that's what's interesting about this particular superpower, is that if you had teleportation, if somebody was like firing a weapon at you, even if it was like an auditory weapon, like if you ever watched the Hulk, the one with Edward Norton, they used like these like huge speakers on like Humvees, and they bombarded him with all this sound, and it like created like this cacophony of a cocoon that he was in of sound that was dissonant, and it decapabilized him. It incapacitated him, and he was no longer able to fight. So it wouldn't matter though, because with teleportation, unless they came up with some sort of technology to wrap you up, which would be pretty rough because your thought, and even if you're wrapped up, you just use your thought to get out of it. If you're in handcuffs, boom, you jump out of it. You have the capability. Um, the in the movie Jumper with Hayden Christensen, there was a sect of, like a religious, sect that didn't believe that people should have the jumping capabilities, and they had these like cable guns that they would shoot at him that had electricity built in. It was kind of like a taser, that would wrap around you, and it would always elicit electrical current, so that if it got around you, you wouldn't be able to jump. Which is interesting because it's like continually shocking you, therefore not allowing you to use your powers. I wonder if that would be the case depending on what the methodology of your power is, right? That's the key. If it's quantum mechanics, then electricity might not play a huge role. But if your power required a certain energy from within you, then that electricity would disrupt that energy within you. So that's pretty fascinating. So going back to the article, there's a lot of questions about teleportation, right? Would your body have to be disintegrated into pieces and then later recreated, like with the Beam Me Up Scotty tech from Star Trek? Or in like Galaxy Quest, where they turned like that animal inside out, trying to create the teleportation device. Since Nightcrawler's not using a device, that's not really too much of an issue. His body simply disappears from wherever it is and leaves this like ethereal black mist behind, and then he reappears wherever he wants. It's really, really fascinating. So makes you think that there would be the capability that he has this innate capability that would almost be impenetrable. Wouldn't matter what you used on him. Hang on one second. And so before you say it's all mumbo jumbo, just think about the fact that this has been completed. This quantum teleportation has been completed by researchers in China as well as America, as well as possibly other countries. And then we also have the Philadelphia experiment. And if y'all remember that was with the USS Eldridge when they tried to, in late 1955, try to teleport this humongous destroyer-class ship with bizarre results. And this happened in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, somewhere around October 23rd, 1943 and 55. It was written about. The story surfaced, but this happened back in 43. This is what's interesting, is that the government has all this tech that goes like decades back, and then all of a sudden now, here in like 2023, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, now all of a sudden we're able to teleport a small speck of a photon 300 miles. But back in 43, they're trying to teleport ships, obviously for military purposes. And this is just from our own country. Now, what's interesting is an ex-merchant mariner named Carl Allen at the United States Navy Naval Shipyard claimed to have witnessed this. Allen described the experiment where the U.S. Navy attempted to teleport the destroyer-class USS Eldridge and disappear, and then bizarre results followed. He states that he understood that the event was he understood that many people believed that it was a hoax. However, the interesting thing is that when he saw it, he states that there was all kinds of bizarre things happening at the time. People disappearing, people ending up in the hulls of the ship, half of their body stuck in the ship. I mean, it was just a total disaster. Being frozen in place in time. They also had humongous side effects, including insanity, intangibility, meaning they couldn't be touched or they were frozen in place. Allen, who claimed to have witnessed this experiment, was serving aboard the SS Andrew Forsyth. In Allen's account, the destroyer was successfully made invisible, but the ship inexplicably teleported to Norfolk, Virginia, okay, from Philadelphia's naval shipyard to Virginia for several minutes, and then reappeared in the Philadelphia yard. The ship's crew, obviously had all these side effects. And what's interesting is he said his memory would have to be recovered because he felt like it was almost like they had covered it up. Also, there was another individual named Jessup who was invited to the Office of Naval Research and showed an annotated copy of his book. Jessup noticed the handwriting and annotations resembled the letters he received from Allen. 12 years later, he would state that they were all annotations within the book. Now, what's interesting is that this wasn't the only place where this took place. There were also other Philadelphia experiments that just didn't get as well documented. Many of these have been, kind of discussed through UFO channels. But again, this all goes back to Albert Einstein and the idea of unified field theories, the cover-ups that went into covering up his intelligence, his research into the Einstein-Rosen bridge, which allows us to cut through space-time. So if they were successful with Einstein during Einstein's day, makes sense. 43, bada bing, bada boom. You're able to move your ship from Philadelphia to New York, no problem. Bada bing, bada boom. That's a humongous ship, though, man. That's not just a man. That's a humongous ship. So they must have felt pretty goddamn confident that they could do a man no problem, and probably had plenty of experience. They probably started off working on squirrels, started working off on pigs, moved it up to cows, moved it up to humans, and then said, hey, we got humans down. Let's try cars. Let's try trucks. And they were probably successful with that. And then they said, well, let's use this for real military purposes. Let's try to move this thing from Philadelphia all the way to New York and see how it works. And when they did that, disastrous events took place. Why? Why would something so terrifyingly bad happen with so much experimentation? Well, either A, they didn't experiment as much as we think, or B, something strange might have happened, like a solar flare or some other random, element or piece of the equation variable that they didn't account for. So either way, it turned out pretty disastrous. Now, that being said, they must have been able to say it was successful for a human before they transported or tried to teleport a ship, right? So, we have to have this technology. We have to have teleportation technology. Good or bad or indifferent, we have to have it because we already have proof that we can move a photon now in university settings, in China, in other countries now, which means the government had it 50, 60, 70 years ago. Okay, so, and then they were working on it for probably 20 years before that, just to get it perfected. And so this tech exists. Somewhere somebody has this tech. Whether it's handheld now is debatable, but most likely probable. Given 70 years of research, maybe 80 years now, right? If it was 43, we're talking 80 years. That's a lot of time, man. That's almost 100 years. Think about how far we've come with cars and rocket ships. So somebody has this tech. Somebody has it handheld, most likely. Somebody might even be able to implant it into their body so that they don't have to have the tech carried on them. They can just think it and use it, like the Neuralink by Elon Musk. Imagine that for just a second. Now you become a true superhero. Now you become a true super soldier. Now you can teleport anywhere you need to go, even if you're captured by the enemy, even if you have individuals firing on you, even if you get hit, You can teleport yourself out of there into the hospital so that you get immediate care and get patched back up in all likelihood, unless you get hit in the heart or something, you know. But otherwise, you're going to be all right. So imagine if all of our forces had teleportation technology. Or imagine if a rogue person took that tech from a lab and went off and did whatever they wanted to do. What would you do with teleportation? Let's say a family member never told you that they worked for the government or some secret op, and they developed this tech and they had it in their house, maybe buried in the basement underneath a latched door, like in that movie, Chronicle, which is a great movie. A little bit different. That's a time travel movie, but let's imagine this teleportation. You find it. What do you do with it? Do you just pop yourself in and out of banks and grab some money, like in the movie Jumper, or do you go off and see amazing sights like the Giza pyramids and the Sphinx, also like in Jumper? Do you try to go on trips with your family, try to jump with them? Or do you try to do some good with it? Maybe you grab some food for a homeless shelter. You grab some food, wherever the food is, right? I mean, maybe you grab some, bring it back. It's yours, right? Let's say it's yours, but you bring it back. Or you're able to bring people to doctor's appointments with ease, or allow people to see loved ones before they pass, right? Like stuff that, you know, is substantial and spiritual and good in nature, as opposed to just being selfish and focused on, you know, finances. It's interesting to think about. What kind of superhero would you be? Would you be a superhero focused on your own gain and profit, or would you be focused on other individuals, or would you make it a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm gonna be a good guy, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I'm gonna try to look out for me and, you know, grab some money and go on trips. You know, I think that there is a fine balance in life. There's a lot of gray area where you kind of fluctuate in there, and things are not always black and white, but there's many shades of gray. So, something to think about, something to chew on. I wanted to share those tidbits with you, and I hope you enjoyed. But you know, like always, you know, I'm always trying to bring you guys something to think about for a short time, and then, you know, continue to discuss more and more as we go. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I enjoyed bringing it to you. I hope that you think about how you would use your spiritual or supernatural or superpower gift if you were given it, and and hopefully, you know, give yourself some room to grow. Give yourself some gray room to learn, to not be perfect always, because no one is ever perfect always, and to think about, not only do we need superpowers to achieve greatness, but you can use what you have right now. Your mind is a superpower, and you can achieve greatness that way, in spiritual aspects and in your community and with your family. I'll leave you with that. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves spiritually, mentally, physically. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams, and as always, continue to question the universe around you. Till next time, guys, take care. Lockdown Universe out.